Well, they don't even want you to know that you can actually fix things without even going to court. That's right. The attorneys are the scourge of the earth right now, and they have hidden the keys of our knowledge, and they refuse to debate our next guest, who is a repeat offender now. And I look forward to having him on regularly to educate everybody so that we can take back our country, our republic. David Jose, please welcome back to the Zelenko Report. You are on fire, and today's show with you is going to be just that, fire with no smoke. Welcome.
Hello, Ann. I wish to bring all the smoke.
Okay. We'll let you bring all the smoke, but we want to clear the smoke and see the truth for what it is. And, part of the truth is people don't understand law. They don't understand what their rights are. They don't, first of all, they don't remember God gives us our rights. Government doesn't create those. We, the people, created government to basically, and a constitution to protect us from an overgrown government. But the government has now trampled on our constitution, and we don't recognize it. We think we are under the maxims of administrative law, when in fact we're under the maxims of our constitutional law. So let's talk about maxims of law just to set the stage here briefly.
Yes, so maxims are foundational principles of law that are so sure and have such dignity that they are universally accepted in all civilized nations. So Thomas Jefferson, one of our forefathers, told that he has never seen a case in his life that ever moved away from the maxims. So rather than teaching us the maxims, which are the sure principles of law, the government officials and the attorneys have come together, hid it from us so that they can run cases against us as the beneficiaries of the trust that they work in order for them to make money. So they have attacked us and not shown us these sure principles, because if we knew them, we would win every single argument that dealt with law.
And there you have it. It's very straightforward, very clean, and it's not complicated. And that's what the attorneys want you to believe. They want you to believe that you have to go through all these years of law school and get your Harvard degree so that you can actually be smarter than the rest of us, when in fact, all it's ever taught them is how to confound us and tangle us in maritime admiralty law, which has nothing to do with where the people stand. We stand on the common law of the land, not in the law of maritime or in the water. We sink in water, we stand on land. So let's talk about this and break this down in some more colloquial examples here. Recently, President Trump was in the news because CNN decided to publish some what we call fake news, as they always do, that criminal news network, saying that President Trump has now called for the termination of the Constitution in a Truth Social post. President Trump, David, did go on to clarify that in a Truth Social post, where he called out the fake news in his Truth Social post. And he said the fake news in his Truth Social is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. This is simply more disinformation and lies, just like Russia, 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 and all of their other hoaxes and scams. What I said was that when there is a massive and widespread fraud and deception, as has been irrefutably proven in the 2020 presidential election, steps must be immediately taken to right the wrong. Only fools would disagree with that and accept stolen elections. MAGA. So, David, break that down. And then while you're doing that, let's put up his actual Trump truth, where this is all came from, where CNN decided to warp and twist the words.
Well, what's happening, and we see this often, is there is a psychological attack on the mind of the people. So whenever someone says anything that's lawful, because the mainstream media and the government actors who are doing wrong know that we never got taught this, they start gaslighting and spitting out foolish information with no facts, no truth, no law. Now, President Trump told that we could change rules, articles, and the such in the Constitution in order to deal with this matter. That is, in fact, 100% true. You will see as we open up the law today, which the other side won't do, you'll see clearly that the law says that we have the right to do this, guaranteed 100%. And what we will learn is that the government officials are simply trustees. The constitutions are trust. Now, when somebody goes against what they swore to do when they got hired to work in the trust, they can be removed on the spot. All the rules go down the drain when they're not following the trust. So they can't be trustees, not follow the trust indenture or the laws of the trust, and then just tell you there's nothing you could do about it. You just have to vote again with machines that don't work. Trump is absolutely right.
All right, so let's look at the original, quote, offending Trump truth that the media had a meltdown over. President Trump posted on December 3rd, he said, so with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democrat Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false and fraudulent elections. So tie it back up again here, because I don't want to say I see how the CNNs of the world read this incorrectly. It just goes to show that they're carrying the water for the globalists, just like the attorneys in the Bar Association are carrying the water for the globalists, because they want to keep us confused in the dark, saying Trump's trampling on the Constitution, when in fact they've been doing it all this time.
Well, to see this clearly, just understand that the people inside of news media have attorneys who are leading them to do these foolish things. The people who are inside of the FBI who make fake collusion stories have attorneys that tell them to do these foolish things. There's always an attorney in the room going against the people in every election case that says we don't want to let you audit your own business. So what's happening is we're getting into a situation where we, the people, are demanding that we have access to our records, as we see with Carrie Lake, these cases with Trump, these cases with Wendy Rogers. We want access to our public information that belongs to us. They don't want to give it. And so when government gets out of line, we move by what's called necessity. The maxims of law tell us that necessity overrules the law. So if we have a necessity to see our property and the government actors don't want to let us see it, we can change the Constitution at will. We can remove all rules, all regulations on anybody and anything in order to be able to bring forth justice for the people. Now, they don't want us to understand that we have the power to do that, but I'm going to tell you a secret. They already swore in our state constitutions across the country that they would allow the people to be able to control the government, regulate them, that we have the right to know, and that if they interfere with it, that they are breaking the law and their trust. So it's very beautiful what's about to happen, and America is going to see that we won already. The nation is just catching up.
The nation is just catching up. Well, speaking of catching up, and I don't mean this disparagingly, but I'm glad to see that Senator Wendy Rogers, somebody who I adore and revere and think she's phenomenal, is now starting to echo these same sentiments here. She put a Telegram post up today, as a matter of fact, and she was addressing Sonny Borelli, another state senator. And she says, our AZ Senate and House never authorized artificial intelligence signature verification. It's not in Secretary of State's election procedures manual. Maricopa County flouted the law, made up their own rules, defied spirit and intent of law. They went rogue. Put this in context for what we're discussing right now.
So Wendy Rogers is a woman with a beautiful heart. She's a very strong fighter, and she catches things really quickly. The thing that has to happen is we have to intertwine Wendy Rogers' wisdom and understanding with the wisdom and understanding of the law and the power of the people. So when we look at the fact that the Arizona House and Senate never authorized any AI verification, what we must understand is that the law was created first by the people. We created constitutions, we created the ways of elections. We said in Article 7, Section 7 in Arizona that the person with the most legal votes shall be considered as elected. So when someone else comes in and they start making determinations of law and how they are going to change the ways of elections, what they actually do is remove the granted trust power of the legislature, which we authorize to take care of law only, not courts, but the legislature only. They actually put themselves in a position of being a separate legislature ruling over the people and demanding people do things that are not law. That is a breach of trust, and it actually dissolves their power. And I'll wait to see if this is true.
Well, I think we're starting to see movement in that direction, because I want to go backwards a little bit, because you've been hammering away at this for quite some time. And again, no secret anymore. I'm a state national because I refuse to be a party to a rogue administrative state which has taken over our government and is trampled on our Constitution. You posted something very interesting back in December 7th of 2020. And you said, look at this, check my Facebook and Twitter and tell me if I told y'all yesterday or day before. I bet y'all that the freaking legislature don't want to come back, but they will start reconvening now. This is them, hot potato affidavits. And you were addressing Sandra, Nurse Sandra. And you said that Josh Barnett sent House Speaker treason affidavits, and I told you all legislature would reconvene, didn't I? Told you all they wouldn't run from evidence anymore, and today, guess what? Them affidavits are something fierce. Watch the next few days. The whole legislature, except those who committed treason, are going to bow down before the people. Every time we hit them, they move. Okay, tell us about what we have happening right here, because this is going back now almost 2 years, actually 2 years, more than 2 years.
Yeah, so God had gave me a ton of information through scripture about the common law and how it works. And so when I understood that the people, Genesis 1:26, have the power over the whole world, the air, the water, and the land.
Land, air, water, LAW.
Yep. I understood completely that we are supposed to have dominion and we need to act in that way. And so in studying the state constitutions, I saw that we had the power to instruct government and tell them what we wish if we bring fundamental principles of law. So I got with Josh Barnett and I made affidavits to get the people to sign on to showing what it is that they saw. We served Karen Fann, 127 of them at her house. Those proved to force the audit to happen. If you just pull Karen Fann's phone records with Kelly Townsend, you'll see where we were at dinner teaching her how to beat the DOJ and Perkins Coie. And she admitted that, hey, David Jose and Josh Barnett, the affidavits made us come back to work. It is why we did the audit. And what it did was, or what I did was back then, is I was writing to the people on Twitter to let them see everything that was happening before we did it. So I said, hey, we're going to send affidavits and watch, they're going to come back to work. They came back to work the next day. Then I said, hey, not enough came. We're going to hit them with another one. Watch some more come. 24 came the next time. And you see all them meeting when they were out of session, and they actually did subpoenas out of session. So we had moved the nation in a way that nobody had ever saw before. And I wanted the people to see the power of God when we understand our role. So I made sure to say everything before it happened so they could see it happening. And everything came forth. We had the only full forensic audit in America. Nobody else has done anything close to what has happened in Arizona. We actually wrote notice to the government, who was mad at Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, and said, we don't care if you don't like him. Pick him. He's the man for the job. He has the skill. He has the talent. This is not your government. And they did it. So we showed beforehand what God had for us and what we were going to do, and it came true. So if anybody is watching today, you can see clearly there's no reason for a man from the ghetto who is not trained in law, who went to public schools, to be able to tell you that we're going to move the government and then do it.
I love your humility, David. It's so great.
It's all God.
It's just beautiful. It really is. Okay, I want to draw attention to another post that you put on Facebook, because this is how prescient you were and understanding this. I mean, again, like you said, you're a man from the ghetto, and yet you managed to read the law, read the state constitutions, and put this together to understand the very simplistic nature of it. Is up to us to tell them what to do. Stop running to attorneys. Stop treating, attorneys represent dead people. We're not dead. Okay, we're not corporations. Yep. We're not dead. We can speak for ourselves, and that's what we need to do. That's why you have a legislature. You don't need attorneys to represent you to the legislature. We pick those people to represent us, so just talk to them. Tell them what you want. So here's your post in February of 2021 on Facebook. You said, remember all those affidavits we gave the Board of Supervisors and the legislatures got showing fraud before they certified the votes? I'll let you in on a little secret. Those affidavits gave them notice of fraud before they did the act of certifying. This means they had a duty to deal with the fraud and check based on the Constitution, and that they didn't do. They can now not declare that they did it in good faith. So not in good faith means bad faith. That also means it can be invalidated. The whole nation can invalidate the election because of fraud. Fool around and find out these affidavits were for a reason. And all those notices, and oh, guess what? That statute of limitation is on fraud. There are none. Arizona can prove that you guys certified it in bad faith. The trouble the workers doing wrong and will find themselves in is devastating. So in other words, these people who certified, David, and they were told there was fraud, they were given the evidence, they did it anyway. They've done it all in bad faith. It's fraud. There's no statute of limitations. It can be rescinded. In other words, 2020 can be repealed, correct?
Oh, it will be. It will be. They made the mistake of not understanding because the attorneys who they call officers of the court work with the lower courts. So the attorneys in the lower courts all came together with a plan as Bar Association members and connected people to block any attack on the bad election. So what we did was we knew that the cover up is always worse than the crime. So we said, forget it. We'll just go after the cover up. So we're going to give you notice of everything in the law that you're supposed to do. When you choose to ignore us because your silly attorneys are going to tell you to, you're going to trap yourself in a situation as an elected official where you did not follow the law that we gave to you in plain English. And at the bottom of the notices and affidavits, we said, if you believe that what we're saying is not true, we wish for you to rebut it by affidavit sworn under penalty of perjury within so many days. If you don't, you agree that you are doing this with full malice, full intent, and full knowledge. Now, that traps them, and we say that no court will be able to rehear this matter. Res judicata, it's already a judge. You don't answer, you lose. So now we have hundreds of thousands of people who put them on notice and gave them affidavits. We turned in 50,000 affidavits from Arizona and Georgia just the other day in one day. So we have evidence that they didn't follow the law. They certified, so-called certified, because they really didn't, but they tried to certify elections without right, knowing that things were wrong, and they got all tied up into it, and now they're bound by it, and they're going to see in a couple of days how serious it's going to be, because the people are going to know they can fix it, and the evidence is already set against them. There's no running.
Okay, so we're coming up on a break here in a couple of minutes. We're going to show the people after the break, the people, as in the rulers of this nation, the real government, the people. We are the people. We're going to show the good people of this country, this beautiful republic, what this remedy looks like, how it is going to actually evolve, how will it manifest itself, because this all sounds really great. You know, I've asked you this question over and over. So people can't understand, well, how are we going to get these people seated in their chairs and furniture and throw them on the lawn where they belong or out with the trash? But we're going to get to that after the break. We want to talk a little bit about John Locke, who he is, and a book he wrote, John Locke, Two Treatises. We need to dive into that. So in a couple of minutes or less, can you kind of give us some background on John Locke, and then we're going to break down some chapters and verses in his book, The Two Treatises of Government.
Yeah. So you have founding fathers of America, and then you have founding fathers in law. Our American system of law was created by certain brilliant scholars, John Locke being one of them. And we can look and understand the fundamental principles of law and how governments are created based off of his work. So when you look in the history of America, you'll see a lot of the law comes from like the Four Institutes of Coke, which is another authority. You'll see that a lot of it comes from Locke. And what happens is they give fundamental principles and truth that have been tested by their peers as a science. So the creating of governments is a science. And when you look at the foundational principles of government as a science, the maxims that they have given us and the ideas are what created America. So when people understood the rights and the powers we have and how we set up governments, they used that information to be able to start the new experiment that we see in the Republican form of government that we have in America. So you're literally going to be able to watch Mr. Locke explain the terms of government, how they work, and the relationships between the people and their servants. And when you understand how these work together, you're going to find that John Locke actually wrote about real issues we have today in great detail, almost as if he was here. When you hear him speak, you are going to feel it in your soul, and you're going to realize your God-given power. You're going to understand that the government servants have deceived us, removed us from our rightful standing, and he's going to lay it out plainly, and you're going to find out the real remedy, what you can do, how easy it is, and how quickly you can do it. It's going to be a blessing.
This is exactly, it's a blessing on everybody. So stick with us right here on Brighteon TV, folks. And if you're on Real Talk Radio, don't turn that dial. If you're on Rumble, share this out everywhere. This is really important information. We've got an incredible constitutional scholar joining us today, David Jose. We're going to be talking about the remedy, what we can do. We're going to dive into John Locke. And we're going to also show you a New Hampshire state constitution. It's just one example of the power you have. We'll be right back after this break.
This was made possible by Brighteon.com. After being deplatformed by YouTube, I built Brighteon.com so that we can speak. All voices of dissent are welcome. Join Brighteon.com now, post your videos today, and start building an audience there where you will not be censored. Brighteon.com.
The Cali Key easily converts your AR rifle to bolt action, allowing you to keep the rifle you love in assault weapon jurisdictions. The Cali Key is a true fast drop-in solution. No permanent changes to your rifle. Import, transport, own, and have fun with your AR. Why the Cali Key? Because a bolt action is not an assault weapon. Stay future ready from gun bans with the Cali Key. The Cali Key also lets you quickly and easily build your ideal hunting rifle, lets you build a quiet as suppressed rifle, and benefits your long-range precision shooting. Available now at CaliKey.com with free shipping.
Hi, I'm Titus. I'm Isaac. We are the Smith Bros, and we love Uncensored Truth. This is why you need to be with Brighteon TV. They're so awesome. Go to Brighteon TV right now. Right now.
SAT123.com. They have put together a really incredible package. Emergency backup communication systems, power systems. We've got sat phones. We've got solar panels, and also the big 400-watt solar panel behind us there. And why does this matter? Because, of course, right now we are dealing with massive risk of blackouts. And the power grid is just failing, intermittently, but it's going to get worse because we've also got energy shortages. Think about the lack of coal power, the diesel problems that are happening right now. If you're in the military or the National Guard or Border Patrol or law enforcement and you need to be able to function even when the power grid goes down, or maybe you're a first responder, rescue team, firefighter, paramedic, you name it, you need to know about this equipment. So SAT123.com, folks.
And welcome back to the second half of this incredibly explosive Zelenko report. We have David Jose in the house right now, and we're talking about remedy for what has been an unconstitutional usurpation of our freedoms here in this country, not to mention stolen elections to boot, not just 2020, but 22, and I'm sure previous elections as well. David, it's great to have you on. We're talking about John Locke. Before we went to the break, you were breaking down that he is a true constitutional scholar, one of the founding scholars of our time, of our country. He published a book, John Locke, The Two Treatises of Government. And we're going to dive into a couple of chapters here, namely this particular section in his book. It's section 171, where we're talking about the Constitution and the government is really a trust. And we're the beneficiaries, and we're supposed to get the benefit of this trust, but we're not getting benefits at all. We're getting screwed, essentially, to put it in colloquial terms.
Yes, it's really deep, because when we understand that the constitutions are express trust, what is expressly written is the actual law. And it's been hidden from us. But in America, we have every single state has one of these trusts. And the trusts are where we grant authority to government servants to tell them what to do. And that's all the power they have. They can't just add something in that they want to do is not based on their will. And when they go against what we told them, it becomes a breach of trust. That's the hidden key that no attorney wants to tell us, and the government didn't want us to know. So because it's a trust, and if they do things outside of the trust, it becomes a breach of trust. We realize that just like a normal trust, you have trust protectors who, if they see the trustees acting outside of the law, they can rewrite the trust, remove the bad actors on the spot. No elections, no nothing. Gotta go immediately.
Well, this is what I don't think people fully understand. They have created the problem from which they are now they're imploding, they're cratering in amongst themselves, they're collapsing, they're dissolving from within because they have abused the powers that we gave them. So this is really explosive information. I don't think people fully understand this. I want to turn our attention to the next section of the book, and this is coming from the dissolution of government portion of this book, subsection 212. And it's talking about right here where John Locke says, besides the overturning from without, governments are dissolved from within. First, when legislative is altered, civil society, being a state of peace amongst those who are of it, from whom the state of war is excluded by the umbrage which they have provided in their legislative for the ending of all differences that may arise amongst any of them. It is their legislative that the members of a commonwealth are united and combined together into one coherent living body. I want to skip down towards the bottom. It says the constitution of its legislative is the first and fundamental act of society, where the provision is made from the continuation of their union under the direction of persons and bonds of laws made by the persons authorized thereunto by the consent and appointment of the people, without which no man or number of men amongst them can have the authority of making laws that shall be binding to the rest. Explain how that applies to what's happened here and how they've made laws that don't even apply to us. It should never have.
Super important. So as Wendy Rogers said, they've made different things law and made their own way in elections without talking with the people, without talking to the legislature. And remember, the Constitution is the foundational document. So when we wrote the constitutions, we said the legislature can do these things. When the legislature gives out that authority to somebody else without our permission, and they say, well, we're going to just give it away, and now our hands are tied because we can't make them change or they won't give us the stuff. You just broke the law, period. The law says the legislature writes the legislation. When you do anything different, you change the legislative and dissolve government, period. You cannot do that. So as the government actors are saying, well, there's nothing we can do because Boyer won't do what we say. And we gave our power to the board of supervisors and they don't want to help us. Can't do that. So they actually are dissolving their own seats as we're watching in real time. The next few sections will prove it.
Okay, so let's go into the next few sections. Let's go into sections 214 and 215 on the dissolution of government here vis-a-vis John Locke. Can you walk us through this, please?
Yeah, if you just want to read those to the people, this is where it will get heavy and the people will understand their power.
Okay, so let's pull this up full screen here on 214. When such a single person or prince sets up his own arbitrary will in place of the laws, which are the will of the society declared by the legislative, then the legislative is changed, for that being in effect the legislative whose rules and laws are put in execution and required to be obeyed. When other laws are set up and other rules pretended and enforced than what the legislative constituted by the society have enacted, it is plain that the legislative is changed. Whoever introduces new laws, not being thereunto authorized by the fundamental appointment of the society, or subverts the old, disowns and overturns the power by which they were made, and so sets up a new legislative. Are they just saying when you go and do things rogue, like Wendy talked about, you're toast?
Yep, you created a new legislative, you overthrew the government in wrong without the people's permission, and now we can resolve it by changing the entire government at will.
It's so simple. It's right there.
Yep. 215 hits it hard too.
All right, so let's dive into 215. Secondly, when the prince hinders the legislative from assembling in its due time or from when acting freely pursuant to those ends for which it was constituted, the legislative is altered. This kind of reminds me of J6 a little bit. For it is not a certain number of men, no, nor their meeting, unless they have also freedom of debating and leisure or perfecting what is the good of the society, wherein the legislative consists, when these are taken away or altered so as to deprive the society of due exercise of their power, the legislative is truly altered. For it is not names that constitute government, but the use and exercise of those powers that were intended to accompany them, so that he who takes away the freedom or hinders the acting of the legislative in its due seasons, in effect takes away the legislative and puts an end to the government. Wow.
Ouch. So the government is already put to an end when they do this. So you got to realize that across the country, people wanted to pass statutes in order to stop bad actors from stealing elections. The governors didn't want it to happen. The secretaries of state didn't want it to happen, and they interfered. Mark Elias didn't want it to happen. So what happened was people blocked our legislative ability by not signing bills that would stop this foolishness, and legislative body members block the bills that would allow these things to work. So they went against their original purpose, therefore dissolving the government already. The people don't have to beg. The people don't have to go to court. The people don't have to wait. Let's check section 216 too, because it's going to get even heavier.
Okay. Brace for impact, everybody, and be ready to do what we're supposed to do, which is peacefully assemble and demand that these jokers get tossed on their proverbial behinds out the door with their furniture, because they don't deserve to be in there at all. Section 216 of John Locke's Two Treatises of Government goes on to say, thirdly, when the arbitrary power of the prince. By the way, the prince, who might that be?
So the governor or the president acts inside of the executive. So it would be considered the same, except for we, the people, have all political power. So we're the highest. They're just our servants in the executive. So when the servant in the executive doesn't carry out the laws or do what he needs to do, he's breaking the law, and it's going to tell what ends up happening.
Okay. So thirdly, when the arbitrary power of the prince, the electors or ways of election are altered without the consent and contrary to the common interest of the people.
What did you say? The ways of the what?
The ways of election are altered.
So if the ways of elections are altered, you've changed the Constitution and the legislative and dissolve government on its face, and we can remove all your power, remove you from office, and send you back to the private realm without waiting?
Yeah, that's basically what it says. It's kind of heavy.
Wow. Let's keep reading that, because that's pretty deep.
Okay, so it says right here, the electors or ways of election are altered without the consent and contrary to the common interests of the people. There also the legislative is altered. For if others than those whom the society hath authorized thereunto do choose, or in another way than what the society hath prescribed, those have chosen are not the legislative appointed by the people.
Oh, really?
Oh,
so the
bummer.
whole government, if you decide to do elections in a way that we didn't authorize, and you're just going to change stuff because you're Katie Hobbs, Raffensperger, whoever else, and you think that you're going to get away with it, I think now that those 50,000, 100,000 notices of affidavits are going to come into play real fast, because the people now know and realize that you changing elections actually removes your power completely, and we don't have to keep you because it's a trust. It's not the government as the workers being supreme, the people are supreme. And when we see you do this, as you already admitted as bad government actors, we could just remove you at will. Now, you don't have to believe us though. Let's just check section 218 and see if that's true.
Okay, so section 218 by John Locke, constitutional scholar, says, why in such a constitution as this, the dissolution of the government in these cases is to be imputed to the prince is evident, because he, having the force, treasure, and offices of the state to employ, and often persuading himself or being flattered by others that as supreme magistrate he is incapable of control, he alone is in a condition to make great advances towards such changes under pretense of law, authority, and has it in his hands to terrify or suppress opposers as factious, seditious, and enemies of the government. Ooh, help me.
So what's happening is, see, the supreme power in a prince is how they do it in their nations, but in America, the supreme power is the people. So if they go against us, it is a insurrection or a factious group against us, right? So we have to understand that when we show and let the world see our reasons, like in the Declaration of Independence, and our long train of abuses, which we've documented so well in 2 years with thousands and thousands of affidavits and notices which explain what their wrongs were, that when we make a determination that we need to separate this relationship or end the trust and start over, it is simply because these people have went against what the law is. I believe at the bottom it tells that if anybody should go against this power, that they are committing the highest trespass against the people, which we also know as treason. Mm-hmm. So we have the power to take it back. Anybody who tries to stop us is doing a treasonous act against the people.
This is explosive. I want to put this into real practice. So let's pull up the New Hampshire Bill of Rights, Article 10, shall we? Because I think right here, actually, I'm sorry, let me go to 220. Actually, Heather, let's go back one. I'm so sorry, I skipped something very important here, which is what David was talking about in section 220 before we get to New Hampshire. In these and the like cases, when the government is dissolved, the people are at liberty to provide for themselves by erecting a new legislative, differing from the other by the change of persons or form or both as they shall find it.
We got to stop there.
Okay.
So the people are at liberty. Liberty is an interest that the government swear they would never interfere with. We are at liberty to change the form of government and the actors in government at will without prior notice. Right now, we can just remove every single actor who changed the legislative, every single actor who went against us, every single actor who did not allow for us to do audits. Every single one can be removed on the spot by guaranteed right, and it's already written in the law.
So great, isn't it? I mean, it's really fresh air to read it out loud. It really is. But I mean, this is the stuff that people just don't know, and it's right in our face, just like everything is in our face. But people are too busy running around paying taxes and observing administrative statutes and codes, which have nothing to do with jurisdiction over free people, by the way. Those are to apply to the people that work in government, not the free people on the outside. But they've conflated all of it. And they use all this word salad legal jargon to confuse us and terrorize us to think that we're going to be, prosecuted if we don't, conform to their statutes and codes, which don't apply to people. It doesn't apply to people at all.
Every society is a voluntary association. You can find that in Massachusetts Constitution. In a voluntary association, you can't force. So they have tricked us to believe that the man with the gun and the sheriff and the attorneys can force you to do whatever they want you to do. They're actually breaking the fundamental law of America, where we're a republic, where they only have power over the public business. They have no power over the people. We never gave that authority out.
That's exactly right. So let me just continue on here. It says, for the society can never, by the fault of another, lose the native and original right it has to preserve itself, which can only be done by a settled legislative and a fair and impartial execution of the laws made by it. But the state of mankind is not so miserable that they are not capable of using this remedy till it be too late. Remedy till it be too late to look for any. Go.
Everybody's asking for remedy, Ann. They're like, hey, how do we force them? How do we get remedy? Because they hear the attorneys say this word remedy. But the biggest remedy in the world is hidden from you by attorneys. Why is it that no attorney in America has stood up and showed that you have a remedy to dissolve all these people on the spot? And why, when Trump mentions it, they try to gaslight everybody, lie on Trump, and act like this isn't a remedy, when the forefather of law has written it in plain English and it is part of the fabric of America? Why would they hide that?
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up, because I want to skip. I know we're going to skip over some juicy stuff, but I want this to be heard right here. They end this section 220. They said, this, if barely so, is rather mockery than relief, and men can never be secure from tyranny if there be no means to escape it till they are perfectly under it. And therefore it is that they have not only a right to get out of it, but to prevent it. So let's apply this in today's New Hampshire Constitution, their state constitution. Let's go right to Article 10, right of revolution. Ooh, that word. I am not an insurrectionist. I'm what I call a retrolutionist. I'm going back to the founding fathers' state of mind and time for which we were founded, our country was founded. It says right here, government being instituted for the common benefit, protection, and security of the whole community, and not for the private interest or emollient of any one man, family, or class of men. I'll stop there. David, have we seen emollients for anybody inside government that doesn't include us?
You mean like those emoluments, like giving money to a crypto exchange and then double back and put that crypto money in your pocket so you could keep it for election tampering and all that stuff? That type of emoluments?
Yeah.
Because an emolument is an advantage or gain that you get from being in office, like Pelosi being able to have people do trades or whatever ahead of time because they know what's going to happen, or like, them allowing Biden to work with his son and doing secret deals with the Ukraine, or them working with Twitter to shut down their political opponents. All those things are emoluments that we never granted them or allowed them to have, that they are using. And because we are ignorant of the law, this continues to go on.
That's exactly right. So let's see what New Hampshire says in addition to that. It says, therefore, whenever the ends of government are perverted, which I would say our government is incredibly perverted. Look at all the freak shows we have working in government right now.
Wait, Anna, I missed the part. Did it say whenever, or did it say every 4 years?
Whenever, not every 4 years, whenever.
So we can deal with them anytime they get out of hand?
Whenever.
Wow. And the United States government accepted this Constitution and agreed to this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's
I know,
amazing.
pretty amazing, isn't it, David? It's pretty shocking when you start to think about this in fundamental terms of what this actually means here. Whenever the ends of government are perverted and public liberty manifestly endangered. Do you feel endangered right now with your liberty?
Like lockdowns and you can't go outside and you can't run your
No free
business and you
speech,
can't work your
exactly.
job? Oh,
Yeah,
wow. This
yeah,
is
no.
amazing. And it's almost like we have the power to do something. Wow.
It's almost like, and it says, and all other means of redress are ineffectual. Didn't we show up somewhere and speak our mind, and what happened?
Oh, and thousands of notices and affidavits, and they didn't want to do everything the right way when we gave them the ability by teaching them the law that they never saw before. Oh, that's fine. What can we do next?
I know. What do we do next? It says, and all of the means of redress are ineffectual. The people may, and of right, ought to reform the old or establish a new government.
Ought
Boom.
to? Of
What?
right? We have a guaranteed right that the government already swore that we are the power. We're over them. We have an inherent right to change government at will when they stop following the law. They paraded everywhere and said, we changed the law. Go home, Carrie Lake. Don't talk to us about what we did. We're not giving you the documents. But right here in the plain law, it says that these people are doing wrong. It says that we can reform government when they do it. We have a right to do it. The fundamental principles you've seen in Locke's work are sitting right here in the New Hampshire Constitution, and the government already agreed.
And they in this particular Article 10 of the New Hampshire State Constitution finishes off with saying the doctrine of non-resistance against arbitrary power and oppression is absurd, slavish, and destructive of the good and happiness of mankind. Well, I'd say I feel like a corporate debt slave. I don't know. How about you?
Well, I'll tell you, I say this all the time, that conservative white men in America, especially Christian conservative white men in America, are being attacked for their belief that they should not be trampled when it comes to their liberties and rights. And now we can see as plain as day that the government was put here to protect our rights and liberties. And when they start trying to lock us down, change elections, and doing all these crazy things that we never authorized them to do, that they are going against the people. They have been trying to gaslight you and tell you that you need to be quiet. There's nothing you can do. You're the minority. Don't buy it. Don't believe it. You are winning. They changed the ways of elections because you were winning. They had to cheat to stop you. You are winning. It's America's turn.
It's America's turn. So very clearly, because we've got about 2 minutes left, David, in terms of the people taking this information and going, wow, it's all right there in black and white. How do we manifest this so that we can see some lawn chairs, some people and desks and stuff on the lawn in front of state capitals and in front of the federal capitol so that we don't have to deal with these monsters anymore? What does that look like?
So the first thing we need to do is assemble together for our common good. So if you look at Michigan Constitution, it tells you that we, the people, have the power to assemble for our common good, instruct the representatives or legislature. So we need to assemble. We need to send instructions to the legislature. Now, they have went outside the law and they have played around for a very long time. So we'll tell them, you must immediately impeach every bad actor now, or we are going to remove the whole government and start all over. As we meet together in our meetings, we will decide how we are going to have the republic set up from now on. So we could put a ad in the legal news telling them that we are going to meet, give notice to everybody, give notice to the current government officials who are servants, and we start coming together immediately. Now, you got your good government actors in different states who will come and talk to the people. You got Wendy Rogers who is complaining about what's happening. You have many others who are complaining about what's happening. What we would do is draw them in and let them sit before the people, and we're going to talk about how we're going to have our government and what we're going to do. And then we will decide who we will keep and who we will toss. We will remove those who are bad actors immediately, letting them know with notice that if they go against what we say, just like the law says, they are committing a trespass against the people, which is treason. We are not going to pay any police officer or sheriff anymore who will not follow the will of the people. And we will declare that we will have new sheriffs and new people who will follow the law.
It's very simple. We're going to organize, folks. And I can tell you right now, David Jose is brilliant. He's speaking to some people very high up. They are understanding and digesting what he's taking. We're going to leave it there with that.